Jam Boom Boom, the world premiere, featuring my Shaw. I feel like a magician. I feel like a magi. And then this depth, this angle, this perception. Yeah, I'm digging it. This is the Big Boom Theory. And this is a continuation of our discussion about creating the world of the play, creating the world of your idea, creating what is allowed, as in rules and not allowed, what is considered normal and what is considered unorthodox, what is foreign, what is alien, what is home soil, territorial, what is to be fought for. And that's a perfect segue into today's topic, talking about conflict. Show my hands because I'm getting all wrapped up in this. Conflict resolution. Talking about that, getting off of that subject and moving towards awareness and application. So I was inspired to talk about this topic because yesterday, writing on the whiteboard, I brought up the word conflict when talking about the world of your idea, the world of your play. And coming up with that idea was that deriving, okay, world of the play. What is this concept in this particular context? Let's take world of the play out and let's just think of the word world. And what do we live in? A world. And what does this world consist of? An atmosphere. It consists of environments, tropical, desert. And so what happens when we see weather phenomena, and again, breaking down and speaking figuratively in terms of creating literature or creating a creative idea, what then happens when we are explaining the phenomena of the friction of whether that be transition, whether that be water cycles? And what came to mind and what I wrote down was the word conflict. Now, as a playwright, as a creator, acknowledging that the playwrights who came before me worked with various methods, as in how to create a plot, what is considered great art, what is considered great poetry, what is considered fine art, and boiling those principles down, and then that eventually becoming how to build poems, how to build stories as far as plot. But what is central to these stories? And that's today's topic. What is central to these stories, and what is central to any old narrative or any of the classics that we know, and what is central to these things, and essentially how a lot of playwrights built their poems, built their plays, built their stories and movies off of conflict. Now, I always had a conflict with conflict. I have another shawl under here too, by the way. Just feeling very, mystique today. But conflict. I've always had a conflict with conflict. Like, this is essentially what motivates. This is essentially what puts people into fight or flight mode. And I'm not even just talking about plays and poetry first, because I'm talking about life. And life imitates art. Always remember that. Life imitates art. I feel like that's another video discussion topic, but this life that we know it, that consists of culture and traditions and beliefs and values, is created off of art, off of the abstract, off of the unknown. And we try our best through this vessel to imitate that which is the unknown, as in our spirit, as in that which is unseen. We try our best to do that, but life imitates art. Always remember that. So in conveying how life imitates art, the stubbornness that then happens, and what I'm getting to is defining conflict. The stubbornness, the friction that might happen between two people with opposing viewpoints, or let's take it back to where this idea, the starting point of this idea, where it was founded in ancient Greece, in Aristotle. The idea, it's very Aristotelian, that conflict become the driving force, or what drives the plot. And you know what? The world premiere is here now. And I'm like, that's not it. That doesn't have to be the end all be all. Now, we've seen out in the world where conflict leads to war. Conflict leads to you're my op, you're my enemy, I'm the hero, I'm the chosen one. I'm It leads to it leads to other problems. And there's a fight to resolve. Now, conflict resolution, for every conflict there's a resolution, and that is what ends up being the overall arc for a play. I'm thinking of the Greek plays, the ancient Greek plays. I can't think of anything specifically right now because honestly I'm just like, man, forget those Greek plays. I'm trying to write my own play right now. But the central force for all of them is war, and that is right off the bat conflict between nations, between dynasties and empires, and the resolution always comes through the killing of of those people, that person, the person in power. The gods, Zeus or whoever else, god of war, told gave me a sign and a message, and I was so empowered to go and kill and slaughter and take over the world. It just essentially makes no sense. Like literally, when you want to break down these plays literally, like the driving force is conflict. Now, inner conflict I do understand. That's when plays and stories become more of like a psycho thriller, psychology, as in psychology, a psychological thriller. And I'm trying to think. Honestly, I empty my mind a lot from other plays and stories and literature that exists because I'm just so in the space of creating my own or being inspired to create my own. But that's not to say that there are incredible psychological thrillers out there, and I'm thinking of Oedipus, to go back to ancient Greek plays. That's not to say that they are awesome in their own right. I just have built up in my mind like empty my mind of everything that doesn't have to do with my own art sometimes. And it works for me to be able to tap into my creative space, but then also in regards and acknowledging other works of art, I gotta learn to be able to recall those things as for what they are. And so for that, just saying that I can't think of any psychological thrillers. However, I know that they do exist, and these types of narratives go and flow towards fighting our internal battles. And so as I'm developing my own curriculum and utilizing techniques that have come before me, the world of the play, not having conflict be the driving force for my stories, instead having the pursuit, or I almost wanted to say the bestowing, but a character or a world coming into a new awareness. And now, what do I mean by that? When you learn something for the first time, learning how to ride your bike for the first time, you as a kid, whether you register it or not, you're hyping yourself up. It's a lot of you're coming to grips with your psyche as far as your incapabilities, your capabilities, your confidence, your worry for the future and what the future might bring. Will I fall off of my bike? But what is registered through the body is just endorphins. Your heart's pumping. You have whoever's teaching you how to learn, teaching you how to learn how to ride your bike. You have that person, those people in your ear as coaches, as motivation, but that the most exciting and the most thrilling part is when you get on that bike and learn how to ride it for yourself. Now that's just an example, but learning something new, becoming aware of new knowledge or aware of yourself, which is what my plays, at least this series, is going to tackle, is that phenomena. So we're familiar with the phenomena of conflict when it comes to a disagreement, something that can be stretched out for a long time. I think of the difference between conflict and issue. Conflict can arise out of an issue being the overall something that has gone on from the beginning of time in an internal conflict arising between those two nations. Conflict, issue being the war, and a conflict being the battle. And that's waged throughout time. So to get away from that, in order to create something new, not to be, so against it and be, and be a Satan against that, but in order to derive something new, acknowledging that this isn't always the most effective way to convey a story, unless you want to use conflict as a way to convey your story, the moral of the story, I should say. However, for the sense of journey, for the sense of adventure, this idea of awareness, the pursuit of awareness, the shedding of awareness, the delight of a new awareness, whether that be in the form of knowledge, in the form of self-growth, in the form of detrimental experiences. Right away, that made me think of the Job story in the Bible. I'm not sure if the Job character had a sense of God before all the terrible things happened. But what I'm recalling is that it was the God and the devil just looking at Job and was like, all right, we about to see, oh, okay, now I'm remembering, now that I'm recalling it, right? Memory, recollection, mythologizing. The devil was like, yeah, Job, talking to God, he really your child, he really your servant. Let's see. God, man, go ahead, do everything that you can. So this is, Job might be perceiving it as a conflict, but essentially what's happened is that his awareness is expanding, his understanding, and that awareness coming in the form of his faith. So there are examples, but it hasn't necessarily been taught in this way that I'm introducing. So putting that in the context of my plays, in the context of Lost Dogs Chase Tails, The Institute Pursuit, for example, and also The Jaguar, for example, this central character, this jam character, is coming into a new awareness through the episodes that unfold. So it isn't necessarily action-based, even though I would like to challenge myself to write action-based stories. I'm in limbo with that as far as writing specifically for audio plays and writing for the stage, but we're gonna, I embrace the challenge. I want to be able to have some sort of action elements on the stage, saying that I have the resources to do so when it comes across as what I envisioned in my mind. That's the collaborative process, and even that I'm learning right now in this intensive that I'm taking with Moment Work, and shout out to Tectonic Theater Company. So instead of having the driving force be conflict and resolution, fight or flight, I win, you lose, I have to conquer this. Instead, introducing a bigger theme, which is why I'm starting with the word of the play versus starting with the character and what they particularly want, focusing on the environment, focusing on the world and the setting, and what is necessary for the world to come to a new awareness, for the characters to come to a new awareness. Whose awareness is more important? Maybe not with that one. Because, yeah, that's leaning into that idea of elitism, who's but that could then say that a story or a narrative revolves around an authority or an authority figure, royalty, them becoming privy to some information, or anyone who's responsible for another individual, them becoming privy to new information or being aware of something could then impact in a domino effect, could then impact the next person or the next people. But how does this pursuit of awareness, or this instant change, or this shift, maybe not an instant change, or this shift, so thinking of awareness on a spectrum, it could be something that can happen instantly, it could be something that can happen gradually in every episode, every chapter represents how this character is becoming closer to this awareness, letting go of what it is that held them back, what they were attached to before. And the phenomena of this awareness, imagine it as a hurricane, like the eye of the storm, being the awareness, how does that move the people around them? How does that move and essentially move the world? So this is, and shout out to Dodo the Pilot Man, understanding the lore of archangels and the principles that each archangel has, specifically Uriel, this idea of the fall and the allegory behind the fall, autumn time, letting go, what we can see out in the world, what happens during that particular season, letting go of things, being attached to things, and then tying those principles to theological or Christian principles as far as letting go of mentalities, letting go of behaviors that hold us in bondage, as far as becoming victims to our trauma or adopting personalities because of traumatic events that then lead to narcissism, egomaniacism, things of that nature. So deriving that concept and enclosing it into a story that then encourages the audience to see themselves in the characters, not based on this idea of representation. Oh, that person looks like me. Yeah, the person looks like you, but does not think like you at all. So instead, focusing and using dramatic literature, specifically using dramatic literature to, because it's voices. When you read plays, if you read plays and you have multiple characters in the play, you're gonna have different voices. You, the reader, you're gonna come up with different voices. Whether it's a older character, whether it's a character of a different race, you're gonna come up with different voices. This is essentially the conversations that we're having with ourselves. So conveying a dramatic literature, as in plays, conveying that the difference between each of the characters based on the awareness that whether the central character is having, whether the support characters are having, the journey then spiraling out for, okay, what is it that they want to become aware of? What is it that they're pursuing? What is it that they need to let go of in terms of a personality trait that's toxic, or an occupation that the character has that can lead them to their demise. So attachment, detachment, becoming aware that that attachment could then lead to your demise. Doesn't always have to be death, but lose that family member, burn that bridge. And then what do I need to attach to as far as letting go, whether that be a spiritual system, whether that be a new practice, whether that be acknowledging my fault, which 9 times out of 10 it'll be that, and you'll see that in my plays and my stories. And then how does this awareness impact my environment? I'm heavy on environment. Just what we do, the inner work, just based on the principle of what we do in our inner work, how that affects the ones around us. Like how you work out one morning and you put yourself in a really good mood, and then you exude that. So you go to work after you work out, you exude that throughout the day. Oh my God, your smile, just from this coming from other people. Oh my God, your smile like just turned my whole day upside down. Or you had the blood flow that day because you worked out early in the morning to come up with a new idea in your business meeting or in your employee meeting. But the conveying through literature and living it and applying it, and that's my next point, the awareness and the application and how that impacts affects all of those around you. I want to kind of create a kind of awareness, application, and affect, the affect. Now the difference between affect and affect, I think affect is like cause and effect, and then affect is like is like how you wear it, the affect. I'm having a moment right now because it's like, man, these words. But I'm certain effect is like cause and effect. Like the effect of the cause of me, and the effect, that's the effect. And then the affect would be me being like, so like, okay, cause and effect. And then the affect is like me like, yeah, the affect, like one's affect. All right, I'm gonna figure that out. So awareness, becoming aware that you either need to do something or stop doing something. the application of that, the practice of that. So this becoming, I want to say this becoming the new hero's journey, but that always sounds like me going up against something, but it's really not that. It's just creating new narratives and new virtues and principles, introducing in this times that we're in right now. And yeah, I almost wanted to say it's crucial. It's crucial as we're evolving as a species, as a human race, as a people, as a individual, how we can hearken to media or literature for inspiration for those things, which is how I embodied a lot of literature or a lot of works of art to inspire my journey here. And so to continue whether something that was the original intention of art or not, but either starting that right now or continuing that from another lifetime, man, it get crazy as far as just asking myself and really pondering on why am I so interested in this stuff? Why am I such a nerd about this stuff? But I'm gonna just keep going. So the awareness, the application, and then the affect that it has. I'm a stick a fork in that as far as the affect, the effect that it has. But by affect I mean the impact that it has on the world. So for the big house, always bringing it back to the big house because that is the project that I'm putting on the chopping block as far as this series, this educational series and breaking down the process of creating the awareness. So what I imagine and envision for the big house, it's very different from the other plays, the Institute Pursuit and the Jaguar, in that it takes place in one location, in that my goal is that through dialogue and through just happenstance of being in a seafood restaurant, the Jam character, the central character, has a new awareness. And so this is to say that we can become aware of something anywhere. And let me be more specific, like we can be more aware of this next move that we need to take according to what you feel is necessary, either for, well, let me be specific, for your growth. That can trickle into literally like, or it can be broken down into, okay, I'm aware that I need to use the bathroom, but in order for me to use the bathroom, I need to get up, walk to the bathroom. So encapsulating that phenomena that I just explained and broke down for Jan to become aware, okay, I've been moving weird because this is a continuation of the Jaguar story. I've come into a new awareness of my environment. There's a Jaguar. I need to run away from the feds and I need to take refuge in this seafood restaurant. But like God knows, like I'm going through it. Like, and that's it. That there's that mysticism that I talked about as far as the four corners. How can we talk about one's individuality, how they come to grips with esotericism, spirituality, how do they come to grips with that? So the awareness there, the application of this awareness that Jam needs to make a move, but the awareness is going to come through conversations with the waiter and conversations with the Fisher person and interactions with the radio announcer who will give updates on the storm, who will also play, I'm going to be playing into kind of giving updates, like in terms of, this is an example, we need to find Jamal, he's at large, things like that. And like the central character getting like startled and like, oh man, I got to make a move. But that move is going to be determined on the conversation that he had with the waiter, as far as, like, do what's important. This is just an example, like, do what you feel is best for you. There's always going to be that moral or that lesson that has to do with this concept of the big house, that, we're a part of a, like, it doesn't really matter how you move. You just got to move because we're in this kind of net. We're in this kind of prison. We're in this seafood restaurant. You can either boil, you can either, or say that you do get eaten, you can be somebody's best meal, so just depending on your outlook, your perspective, and your awareness of the situation that you're in. Are you going to look at it as a binary, bad, good, or it is what it is, what works best for you? And then the affect is that I want to play with environment and atmosphere as I was talking, and that this idea that the rainstorm represents a raining down of consciousness, and then perhaps a rainbow at the end, or the weather clears up. So awareness, application, and affect. This is the Big Boom Theory. I am Jam Boom Boom, the world premiere.